I have my own practice, Kelsey Chismar Therapy, LLC. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I have my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and in 2024, I got my LPC. Found that it was pretty confusing to apply for my LPC, and the information wasn't readily available online, so I figured I'd make a video explaining the step-by-step process to help you navigate applying for your LPC. So as a brief rundown, you'll be applying for your LPC after 3,000 supervised hours post-master's degree. There's a lot of information you need to submit, and it can take weeks to process. I'll explain more of that in depth later in the video, so I'll show you the step-by-step how to find the website, log in, navigate the application process. The website you'll want to go to is www.pals.pa.gov here, and that's the Pennsylvania licensing system. You can go halfway down the page to the link that says Application Checklist. Click on that. And if you're applying for your LPC, you'll want to click the tab under Board/Commission, scroll toward the bottom to find the State Board of Social Workers, Marriage and Family Therapists, and Professional Counselors. Then there's a tab for license type that'll pop up. Choose Professional Counselors. Just to keep this simple, I'm going to say no and assume that this is your first time applying for a state license. And then you'll see a detailed application checklist that'll populate, and you'll notice that there are about 10 different areas to this application, which is why I personally started it about 3 months before I was going to submit my hours. Everyone's different, but for me, each week I chose an area or two to complete within the application to break it up into smaller, more manageable chunks. I can go through and explain each area too. What I found to be helpful was to print the checklist and then cross off each area as I completed it. It's not uncommon for the board to send back applications for revisions, so just make sure you're paying attention to the specific details for each area they're looking for, so that way your license isn't delayed. It's not a huge deal if they do send your application back. Don't worry too much about that, but it does hold up getting your license sooner. And then also keep in mind this application is time sensitive. That's what we'll go over first. So this first part for the application, so if the application is not completed within 6 months, updates of certain sections will be required. And then the background check, you want to make sure it's within that 3 months. And then also, if your application isn't completed within a year, you have to complete a whole new one. You don't want to lose that application fee, so that's why I keep saying do it within the 3 months if you need the extra time. Some parts of the application take like 5 minutes, other parts can be a bit more time consuming. And then there is a $100 application fee, and there are fees for other parts of this application too, just so you know. And then just going down in order, you're also going to need to complete a child abuse course. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I did this for free through the course that Pitt offers online. And then they also give you directions of how to find the different courses. And then the criminal history checks. You're going to want to follow all these links to do your clearances, so you can check those off as you go. You'll do the data bank report. This only took a couple of minutes for me. You'll need to have your grad school transcripts mailed. They provide the address here. Exam results. So this part took the longest for me. What this means is they want your NCE scores, and that's through the NBCC, the National Board for Certified Counselors. Just remember this can take up to a month to process and for them to send you your scores, so plan accordingly. It could take the longest. Letter of good standing, I don't remember much about this area. I don't think it applied to me. I remember calling the board to ask about it, so if you're not sure, you may want to just reach out to check. They're going to want a resume for you, so make sure you pay attention to each area that they're asking for. And then this last part, supervised clinical experience. So this part gave me the most trouble. The paperwork you need in order to fill out these supervised hours is locked behind this whole application. So you have to submit the entire application before they'll give you access to the supervised hours paperwork. And so you can't Google this paperwork. You won't find it. You'll only find old, outdated copies that you can't use. However, you can use those old copies as kind of like a rough draft if you want to fill it out ahead of time and then eventually transfer that information onto the new paperwork. Once your application's finished, you can gain access to it. It's also not uncommon to have multiple supervisors signing off on your 3,000 hours. That was my situation. And in the time it took me to get my 3,000 hours, I worked at 2 separate jobs, so I had a little over 500 hours reported from one, a little less than 2,500 from the other, so I reached out to both supervisors for them to fill out my paperwork. And then when you're ready to start your application, you'll go over to the left sidebar and click Register for a new account. Follow those steps. That should be all the information you need to apply for your LPC. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on my social medias or go to my website and send me an email. Hope this helps.